The family thought someone was breaking into their house. They were right. But they were wrong about why. Because after checking the house, they realized nothing had been stolen. Instead, something had been left behind, and they wouldn't understand what it meant until the stranger came back. At first, they blamed each other. Maybe someone had forgotten to put something back. Maybe the kids were playing around. Maybe it was nothing. But then, one morning, Rachel noticed the back door was unlocked. She was certain she'd locked it the night before. Daniel checked the house. Nothing was missing. No broken windows, no damaged locks, nothing that looked like a break-in. Then he walked into the kitchen and stopped. One of the burners on the stove was turned completely off. Rachel suddenly remembered something. She had left it running before going to bed. That should have been the end of it. They called the police, explained what they'd found, and were told there was no obvious sign of forced entry. But Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the stove. Someone had been inside their house, and somehow that person had known exactly what had been left on. So the family decided to install a security camera. For the next few nights, nothing happened. Then at 2:13 in the morning, the camera detected movement. Daniel checked the live feed. A figure was standing in the backyard. They weren't trying to hide. They were standing perfectly still. Staring directly at the house, Daniel immediately woke Rachel. They watched the camera together. The figure finally moved. He walked toward the house, stopped beneath one of the windows, and looked up. For a few seconds, he didn't move. Then he reached into his pocket. Rachel expected him to pull out a weapon. Instead, he took out something else, a small flashlight. He pointed it toward the side of the house and slowly moved the beam across the windows. Then he stopped. He had found something. The figure quickly walked toward the house and disappeared from the camera's view. A few seconds later, they heard something downstairs, a soft click. The family froze. Someone was inside. Daniel grabbed his phone and slowly made his way toward the kitchen. The house was completely silent. Then he saw him. The stranger was standing beside the stove. For a second, Daniel thought he was about to attack, but the man wasn't looking at them. He was staring at the wall behind the stove. Then he reached behind it and pulled out a small object. Daniel turned on the lights. The stranger immediately looked at him. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the man dropped the object on the floor and ran. Daniel rushed over and picked it up. It was a melted piece of electrical wiring, and suddenly the family realized something terrifying. The stranger hadn't come into their house to steal anything. He had come looking for things that could hurt them. For the first time, the family didn't know what to think. If the stranger was trying to hurt them, why was he looking for dangerous wiring? Daniel checked the rest of the house. Nothing. But the next morning, Rachel noticed something else. A loose connection behind Noah's bedroom wall had been repaired. Nobody in the family had touched it. Then Daniel remembered the stranger's flashlight. He checked the security footage from the previous night. The man hadn't been looking randomly through the house. He had been checking specific places: the stove, the wiring, Noah's window. 3 different dangers. And suddenly, a much more disturbing question came to mind. How did a stranger know exactly where to look? That night, Daniel did something he hadn't done before. He stayed awake. At 2:13 a.m., the camera picked up the stranger again. But this time, he wasn't alone. A second figure appeared at the edge of the property. Daniel watched as the stranger immediately turned toward them. The second person started moving toward the house. The stranger stepped in front of him. They argued for several seconds, but Daniel couldn't hear what they were saying. Then the second figure suddenly turned and disappeared into the darkness. The stranger stayed behind. He looked directly toward the security camera, and then he did something that left Daniel frozen. He pointed toward Noah's bedroom window. Daniel ran upstairs. The window was open, and sitting on the windowsill was something that hadn't been there before. Daniel stared at the windowsill,
It was a small metal box. He had never seen it before. He picked it up and immediately noticed something scratched into the lid. A single word: run. Then he heard a sound downstairs. The front door had opened. Daniel rushed back to the security monitor. The stranger was gone. But the second figure was now standing in the backyard. And this time, he wasn't looking at the house. He was looking directly at the camera. Daniel zoomed in. His face was finally visible. And Daniel recognized him. He had seen that man before.
Not outside the house, not on the security footage, inside the house. Daniel couldn't understand how it was possible. He had seen that man before, but then he remembered where. A few days earlier, the family had hired a repairman to inspect the house's electrical system. The same man. Daniel immediately called the police, but before they arrived, he checked the security footage from the repairman's visit. The man hadn't just inspected the wiring. He had been photographing the inside of the house, every room, every window, every entrance. And suddenly, all the strange incidents made sense. The mysterious stranger had been trying to stop him, but there was still one question Daniel couldn't answer. Why would a repairman want access to their house in the first place? Police arrived before the repairman could leave. They searched his car and found photographs of the house, copies of the family's schedule, and detailed notes about the rooms inside. But there was something else. The notes showed that he had been planning to return that night. The mysterious stranger was never identified, but investigators eventually learned what had happened. He had discovered the repairman's plan and had been secretly following him, trying to prevent him from hurting the family. The family left the house soon afterward. Months later, Daniel received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single photograph. It showed the family's new home, taken from across the street. On the back, someone had written, "You were never the ones I was watching." Daniel immediately called the police, but before he could explain what was happening, his phone rang. It was the same mysterious stranger, and he said only 4 words. "Don't trust the police.